Syria's permanent representative to the UN has issued a warning to Israel, saying the patience of Damascus is wearing thin. It follows a series of airstrikes on Syrian territory carried out by the Israeli Air Force.
Isn't it high time for the UN Security Council to put a stop to Israel's repeated aggressions against Syria? Or is the only way to attract the attention of the belligerents in this council to exercise our legitimate right to defend ourselves by responding to the Israeli attack on Damascus International Civil Airport with one on Tel Aviv Airport?
Well, the Syrian diplomat there was apparently referring to the Israeli airstrikes on various targets in Syria on Monday. Israel said it had struck facilities belonging to Iranian forces stationed in the country and claimed the attack was in response to a missile being fired into Israeli territory. Syria, in turn, said it had managed to shoot down most of the Israeli missiles. However, reports suggest the air raid claimed the lives of 11 Syrian military personnel. Israel has been carrying out airstrikes against targets in Syria on a regular basis over the past few months. So let's get some analysis now from Middle East expert Ali Risk, who joins us. Good afternoon to you, Ali. What are your thoughts here then? Syria's called on the UN Security Council to demand an end to Israeli airstrikes. What's the likelihood the UN can actually do anything to do that?
Well, first of all, I think it's rather unprecedented for a Syrian diplomat to make such a big, threat or issue such a big warning against the Israelis. I don't recall a Syrian diplomat, making such a warning to bomb the Tel Aviv airport. And I would also believe that, this is a result of Israel's, Israel is the one which has been escalating, especially recently, particularly ever since the President Trump announced his intention to withdraw from Syria. Since that time, we've seen these escalated Israeli attacks on Syria, ongoing violations of Syrian sovereignty, and so hence we see this strong Syrian reaction as a result of this Israeli escalation. Now, regarding your question, what is the likelihood of what could happen? We all know that the US has provided Israel with diplomatic cover over many issues, whether it be its policies towards the Palestinians, whether it be its policies, wars on Lebanon, which we've seen, and I think that the US will probably try and give cover for the Israelis regarding their escalatory activities in Syria. But if you just allowed me to mention this point, I think that Bashar al-Jafari, in his remarks, he was addressing first and foremost the Trump administration, because Syria knows that the Trump administration doesn't want to get involved in any new wars, and I think what the Syrians were trying to say to the Americans was, try and control the Israelis, otherwise we're going to ignite a war, and you, the Trump administration, don't want to be dragged into a war. If you don't want this, then hence put a stop to what the Israelis are doing.
Do you think that will happen, though? I mean, America's wielded its veto numerous times, hasn't it, to protect its ally Israel? I mean, you'd expect a similar thing to happen now, wouldn't you?
I would, but as I said, the Trump administration is very reluctant to get involved, doesn't want to be involved in military conflicts. I don't think it's interested in any way whatsoever for other regional conflict to be ignited. And that's what I think, that while America might express rhetorical support for Israel, diplomatic support, I think behind the scenes you might just see the Americans putting pressure on the Israelis in order maybe to try and calm down their activity, because as I said, ever since the announced withdrawal from Syria, we've seen this escalation. And one other important point is that when Bashar al-Jafari says that they might strike the Tel Aviv airport, I think that shows that the Syrians have some military surprises maybe up their sleeve if any war were to break out.
You could argue, couldn't it, though, or you could argue easily that this will just escalate the situation. I mean, Israel might look at this and say, okay, well, we'll just take another preemptive strike if you're going to threaten Tel Aviv.
It might do so if the Trump administration says that we'll continue to support your strikes, support the Israeli strikes. But if behind the scenes, as I expect may happen, if behind the scenes America puts pressure on Israel to calm down, along with Russia, we also have to look at, how the Russians will react to this. And we all know that Trump administration, at least Trump himself, appears to want to improve ties with Russia. Now, if that's the case, we could see some joint pressures from the Russians and from the Americans on Israel. And if that does happen, I'm very doubtful that Israel could withstand pressures from both the Russians and the Americans and behave so unilaterally. So it's not actually quite certain that the Israelis will be able to continue with this free reign, although that, as I said, that remains a possibility that America could try and give them a free pass to continue what they're doing.